So what makes a car special? Is it features? Because I have a sub here and it's fully loaded with toppings. It has chicken, it has sauces, it has veggies. It's fully loaded, but then I take a bite. It's okay, it's dry. It's not necessarily good because it's got a lot of features. So what makes something special? Is it the personality? Is it a spice? Is it a certain notion? So the RSQ8 is one of those spicy cars. It has a spicy personality. A lot of you have asked if the X5M is the better vehicle, and to be honest with you, that is not a question that you should be asking. You should be asking how this car differs from the X5M, and it does differ in quite a lot of different ways. After our X5M video, we had a viewer who wrote to us and asked, is the RSQ8 a better SUV? And he was a little concerned because he really loved the video and he said that I love the X5M, but I might have gone ahead and have pre-ordered an RSQ8. Did I make the right choice? Should I be worried? Well, the answer is no, because the RSQ8 is an incredible car that is based off of the Lamborghini Urus. Now, it's not quite a Lamborghini Urus, but it's a really good SUV in its own right. Exterior-wise, this is a very striking SUV. It makes the Q8 look a little inadequate because the RS features of this car make it seem completely different. It looks different, it has a different personality, it feels RS. The X5M is more of a beefed up X5. Now, where that changes is the personality of the driving, which we'll talk about later. Angular carbon fiber mouth looks very aggressive and it just stands out. It feels like it comes and attacks the road. I love that. I love this front face. I love how aggressive it looks and it just oozes aggression and speed. Moving to the side, the headlights do the same party trick as the RS6 model that we reviewed earlier on in the year. Carbon fiber mirrors. The sides are sculpted, but nothing too spectacular. It just has these nice little hips here that just make it look very beefy. Through the back, it's got these very nicely protruded taillights into the RS usual big oval exhausts with more carbon fiber and more diffusers in the back. And the rest of the car is just simply sleek. I love the sloped roofline. It makes it very sharp. It does resemble the Urus's silhouette a little bit, and that feels nice, but it doesn't mean it looks like the Urus. It's much more subtle than the Urus. Inside, this SUV really feels like an RS6, essentially a raised version of it. And everything, every button placement, everything is just like the RS6. The handrest here has changed a little bit. It's got a little bit more space. The phone holder is very small, but the rest of the interior, it's essentially an RS6. Alcantara wrapped steering wheel. Feels nice. I'm not sure how long Alcantara steering wheels holds up, but for now, it feels nice. A little bit on the skinny side, not a huge fan of that. The plastic paddles, not a fan of that either. But the display of this car is incredibly sharp, and it looks more premium than the X5M. But the steering wheel does not compare. The X5M is a much thicker, much nicer to the hands. The seat of the X5M is also a bigger bucket. This is a more normal everyday seat. It's comfortable. It doesn't have any highlight features, but it definitely keeps you in place well enough. Where it shines compared to the X5M is the fact that it doesn't take up as much space. This car has 6 inches of space in the rear more, and I think that's largely due to the fact that these seats are smaller. Moving through the center here, when I reviewed the RS6, I wasn't a fan of the fact that it didn't have physical buttons at the bottom here. And in the e-tron GT that's coming out, they actually did put physical buttons here. I like the fact that it's not with buttons. I think that the digital screen here makes a little bit more sense. I can't explain why, it just feels more natural to me. And the buttons are, as usual, Audi quality. They feel really good. Everything is nice to touch. They all have the nicest haptic feedback. And they're just pleasant to use. That not once have I thought that there's something wrong with it. The only thing is that everything in this car is in hidden menus. So when you're driving, you feel like you have to hunt for the button rather than it being placed somewhere where it's obvious. At least not for a person who just got in the car and just goes on for a drive. Once you do get acquainted, this car has massaging seats, heated and cooled seats. The cup holders are just normal cup holders. They can hold maybe an espresso-sized cup. The rest of the digital display is very clean, very crisp, and it has all the features you'd want out of it. It has automatic cruise control, it has lane assist. The rest of the interior is nicely equipped with carbon fiber, which feels and looks extremely expensive. I think the carbon in this car feels a little bit more premium than the X5M. And the rest of the car is just Audi. Alcantara wrapped shift knob. Again, I don't know why Audi were doing this. It's very clunky. It's like a big piece of rock in the middle. The BMW X5M has a tailored little art piece in the middle, which is unlike BMW because they are known to make not the best looking shifters. The rear space in this car is excellent compared to the X5. In the X5, you can't actually fit big adults in the back. You just can't. There's almost no legroom. The headroom is there, but with no legroom, I feel it's just a waste of space. In this car, 6 extra inches in the back really help, and you get 7 extra inches in the cargo. Now, for daily drivability, that's exactly what you want. So, as a daily driver, that space is one of your primary must-haves. This is the SUV for you. With that being said, let's go drive the car. What makes the RSQ8 special? Well, it's basically this. It's wild. It's honestly wild. It's got the best grip out of anything I've driven recently. Maybe the RS6. And that's very interesting because this essentially feels like an RS6. The interior is, I feel like I'm in a raised RS6 in here, and it even drives like one. It has incredible grip in the corners. It's really good. It's really solid. It gives me a lot of confidence, and it's not as flat as the X5M, but it has grip. I think it has more grip than the X5M, and that grip is what makes this very, very special. I don't think anything can rival Quattro when it comes to grip, and cornering grip is there as it is in a straight line. When you poke this thing, it just goes. The 4-liter twin-turbo V8 has almost no lag. For 5,300 pounds, it just moves. There's no delay. There's no response that needs your second input. It just changes gears exactly when you want. It accelerates exactly when you want. And then when you put it through the corners, it's just all grip. It has a sense of understeer at the very limit, but that's just very Audi-esque. And you gotta be okay with that when you buy an Audi. The engine is at the nose, and that does not help when you put in a heavy vehicle like this. This car has a hidden personality, and I say it's hidden because if you don't want it to come out, it doesn't come out. If you want to have a comfortable, smooth daily driver, this thing just absolutely can do it. It turns off like no other car I've ever driven before. It turns into a quiet, smooth SUV, civilized. It makes no noise. It rides comfortably through the bumps. You can put kids in the back. They can fall asleep in this thing. And just the way it wakes up, it becomes a monster. The moment your foot touches the throttle, go down to second gear, and you get reminded that this isn't very different from a Urus. It's a little bit of horsepower down, 591 in this and around 640 in the Urus, but it feels faster than 590 horsepower. And it has matching torque, so that also helps. 5,300 pounds is not exactly the heaviest SUV, and it looks really small. And speaking of small, it is surprising that it is so big in here. These seats are more towards comfort, and that's amazing because this is a daily driving SUV with that split personality of anger and comfort, that it just, the balance, it strikes that balance perfectly. The rest of it in here in the cabin, it feels very soft. It's got a lot of good materials. Everything is exactly where you'd expect it to be. The display is incredibly crisp. Everything here responds really well to the touch. All the features are just there at your fingertips. Some of them are hidden under layers of menus, but once this becomes yours, once you own one of these, you just get used to it. You know exactly where everything is. The sound system in this car is incredible as well. It's got these little speakers that come up and they tuck away when you turn the vehicle off, so they're not looking too intrusive. Alcantara steering wheels are meant for you to drive with either gloves on, or you got to keep it very clean and you got to clean it very often, and just, it's nice to the touch, but for how long? I think other people might find it really nice because Alcantara is really nice to the touch. And the thin steering portion, especially around where you hold it by the paddles, well, maybe people with smaller hands might enjoy it. I don't have particularly big hands, but you know, I still wish it was a little bit thicker. Our German cars have a formula. You make a flagship sedan, you make it incredible, and then you make an SUV out of it. Until recently, SUVs stand for sport utility vehicle, and there wasn't a lot of sport in there. Just because you have a V6 engine with some turbos does not make the SUV necessarily sporty. These 4-liter V8s create a different layer of sport. They don't just give you speed, they give you handling. And handling in an SUV may come at a compromise. An X5M handles really flat, but the compromise is the stiff ride. In this car, it doesn't handle as flat, but that's okay because it makes up with a much more compliant ride. And for an everyday drive, I will take this over the X5M simply because it copes with the road better. And it's not far off the handling either. I think in the hands of a really capable driver, maybe you'll notice a fractional difference, but in the hands of everyday people, they both handle above and beyond what we're gonna do with these things. So I think check on both SUVs for handling. They're both very fast. I think this is the better looking SUV. I think this is also the better sounding SUV. The X5M is a little bit more hardcore than this. This has that personality where the X5M can't fall back on a soft personality. This car has that covered. SUVs normally come loaded with features, and when you see which one is the top SUV, a lot of reviewers will rate things with features. And as I was saying earlier, just because something has a lot of toppings, it does not make it a good piece of food. Just because a car or an SUV has a lot of toppings or a lot of features does not make it a good SUV. What makes it a good SUV, it's its soul. Quattro has a distinct personality, which is why this feels so much like an RS6. They have an underlying personality that's the same. It can grip anywhere, in any weather, in the snow, in the rain, in the cold, no matter where you throw this car, the grip, it's sensational. And it gives you a large amount of motorsport combined really well with daily drivability. An X5M, underneath its X5, it's an M, and that M personality comes up and it shows. It just wants you to drive it fast. It wants you to poke it in the corners. When you drive that car slowly, it feels almost underused and underutilized. So you kind of get urges to floor that car. You get urges to go fast in that car. We haven't gotten to AMG yet, and we will get into AMGs later on. They just have a brash personality, but in a good way. They are the life of the party when you want them to be, and they just don't leave your house, unfortunately. So if you get bothered by people that are rude and aggressive all the time, that is basically what an AMG is aggressive and raw, and it gives you an emotion that softer, quieter SUVs like this just don't give you. The elephant in the room is that this car is basically a Urus. Now, it might be a Urus underneath, it might have the same engine and the same transmission, but it does not have the same personality. It is much softer looking than a Urus, and it is much quieter than a Urus, although it's not all that quiet, but it is quieter. With that being said, a Urus has Lamborghini DNA. This does not have any Lamborghini DNA in the sense of personality. This is through and through an Audi. And that is a really good thing, because if you want an SUV that is really fast and really fun and it looks incredible, this is the SUV for you. If you want an SUV that will put a smile on your face and around every corner, and you don't care about space and you don't care about ride quality, and you just want to have that raw sense of aggression through the corners, the X5M is for you. If you're a bigger guy, you got to remember, some people are 6'5" and up. Those big people need a really big SUV to feel comfortable in. The X5M has a taller roofline and gives you a bigger sense of space than this SUV. This feels more like an RS6. It is compact, even though they are roughly the same size. So, to answer our viewer's question, did I make a mistake ordering one of these? The answer is absolutely not. It's not that an X5M or an AMG SUV won't give you a good feeling or a great feeling or an amazing feeling. It's just your personality chooses this car. Where I think Audi matches more personalities recently is the fact that you can go slow, and when you go slow it still feels special. An X5M, once you go slow, it just wants to irritate you until you actually poke it and set it on fire through corners. We're going slowly through corners in this car, and it's soft and it's comfortable and it sounds good and it gives you really good response and a good feeling even though you're not pushing it. That sense of everyday drivability. This is a trademark of Quattro, a trademark of Audi, and I am in love with this SUV. I think this is probably my choice, and it's largely due to the fact that I think this is the best looking SUV right now. I know the Urus is out there and the Urus is looming in the background saying I look better, but I think the simpler, cleaner lines of this car personally look a little bit better to me. The Urus still looks very Lamborghini and really pretty, but the price gap is quite ginormous, and if you factor that, I think the RSQ8 is the SUV for most people. I want to give a huge shout out to Loukas for lending us his car. This monster is incredible, and he has some plans for it. We're going to follow this car and we're going to follow his RS7. It's over 1,000 horsepower now. We can't wait for summer. We can't wait to show you guys. Follow him at RS_monsters. He is doing some crazy stuff. They even have an R8 in there. I am super excited to work with Loukas again. It's been a total pleasure. Again, thank you for following. Thank you for liking, guys. You don't understand how much it means to us. We would love to bring you more cars like this in the future. If you want us to review any other particular car, like you guys asked for this, please let us know. I'd be more than happy to find the car and we will review it. We can compare it side by side with other vehicles. Just let us know and we will do it for you. Have a good day.